Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to teach you how to make these simple rhinestone Montee earrings. And I just want you to notice we've just added this new tanzanite. It's in a slightly larger size. This is not available on my website. It's only available in the kit. And we have beautiful tanzanite drops to go with this in this earring. The color is maybe just a slight hair of a difference, but honestly, once you're wearing a pair of earrings, you will not see any difference at all when you're wearing them. And there's so much in the facets and so much in the color. The color is really good to match up. So I think these are really lovely. As I said, we haven't been able to carry the tanzanite before because of the holes running a little small in the slightly smaller size. Also, I want to mention to you that in this particular project, I show you how to put a faceted bead. This is wire wrapped at the bottom. If you're doing this in rose Montees, as opposed to, these are Chaton Montees. And let me just show you the difference. A Chaton Montee is a pointed back rhinestone in this setting, okay? So these are fairly deep. Whereas a rose Montee is a flat back and it has a channel in the back. So when you mount rose Montees, they fit very flat and we can keep this square in position. But in this particular case, without the weight of a bead at the bottom, this square that's here can kind of collapse and not look as good as it possibly could look. So that's part of the reason why I created these in kits, so that you would have everything you need to have just a lovely earring and get to enjoy this process of learning. This is a first-time beginner project for working with rhinestone Montee beads. If you haven't done anything before, this is the project that I highly recommend doing before you move on to anything else. As I said, these have a slightly larger hole and are a slightly larger size than the regular 4mm Montees that I use. So you need to make sure that first of all, you have the eyesight to be able to do something in this small size and that you like it. So by having a small, inexpensive kit, you can give this a try. And if you don't like it, then you haven't lost much. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so believe it or not, we're gonna actually do this project backwards. And I wanna do the drop part first. And mainly that's just because these are gonna be wire wrapped. So we wanna have these ready to go as soon as our earring is ready to have them. So you'll notice I'm using a nylon pair of pliers. I just wanted to show you what these are used for. You can basically take these to straighten out your metal when you have head pins and eye pins and things that that you know have bends and kinks. You know, it's not perfect. It's not gonna fix everything in the world, but it certainly does help to straighten your metals back out and make them much smoother. So so you've seen that, and I'm going to take one of my head pins and I'm going to put it through my faceted bead here. And the way I'm going to show you how to do this is actually different than the way it was in the tutorial. And I think this is nice because you get to see two different ways to approach this. Okay, so these are my round nose pliers. And you notice I grabbed this real close to here, but there is a little tiny gap in there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and I just want you to notice that I'm about midway up, about a quarter of the way up the round nose plier. Now I'm gonna take the wire and bend it forward, okay? And before I move my pliers, what I'm gonna do is grab the bead and just see how I just tilted that back, just a little movement like this back. And what that's gonna do is make my little bend that I need so that when we make this loop at the top, we want it to be centered over the whole of the bead. So that's why we do that. Now I'm going to come back in over here, and I want to be just a hair lower than perhaps I was before. And I'm going to bring that wire all the way around. Now I'm going to bring in a pair of flat nose pliers. These are my chisel nose pliers. I didn't actually grab the right ones, but I like to do a little bit of working with this. And you'll notice that when you get this wire just right, it's not at a 90-degree angle from this wire. It's 90-degree angle with just a slight curve down. Okay. And then what we can do, now this is really easy wire to move. So I can actually start wrapping this wire around with my fingers. But what I like to do is do that first spin around, just to get it started. And then I'm going to take my little bent nose pliers, and I'm going to grab the end of the wire. Oops, and start wrapping it around. This is going to allow you to get a really nice tight wrap. Okay, still looking good. I've got a little. Okay, so you see that? And then I'm going to bring in my wire cutters, and we're going to snip this little end off. Okay, so I want to get up as close as possible to the base of this, but you can see I still have this little tiny spoke sticking out. And now I'm going to recommend something special to you. If you have these, crimping shears are often really great for grabbing the ends, and I particularly like this Xuron brand one because the little tip at the end of these is really small. And the Xuron pliers have a really kind of coarse finish to the metal, so they don't slip off of things as much. So in this case, this was in pretty good shape. What you can do too also when you're working on bigger pieces is that, use the crimping part, and sometimes that'll shove the wire back down too. So just want to show you that, and we can tinker with this a little bit, but basically now we have a nice wire wrapped base that we're going to stick on the bottom. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and do that one, and then we're going to go ahead and do a second one to match it for the second earring. Okay, remember, flip it around and do the little bend backwards, bring it around. Okay, this is the part where we get things just right, just the way we want them. Okay, not quite perpendicular, just a little less than that. Actually, my loop is looking like it's still going to be a little bit bigger than my other one. So this is the time to make the changes you need to make. Okay, I'm going to push that around, turn it to the back side, and I'm going to bring in my bent nose pliers. And start wrapping. And then again, this is the time when you can, try and make them both look the same. They don't have to be exactly perfect. Obviously, especially with earrings, one's going to be on one ear, the other's going to be on the other side of your head. So it's not quite as imperative, but this takes practice to kind of get them all looking the same. And this, just so you know, this catching this little wire in here that I'm pushing down now, that can take a little bit of doing sometimes. Sometimes, you know, you're gonna have to try for it a few times, but there we go. We have both of our little drops that we're gonna put on the ends of our earrings, and those are all set to go. So we can start going ahead and making the rhinestone section of our earring now. Okay, so I have some Chaton Montee beads here, and I have some jump rings. These are 20 gauge 1/8 inch. And when I say 20 gauge, these are a 0.8 millimeter wire. They probably are running just a little bit fatter than that, but I've actually compensated for that with these rhinestones that I got. So this is a new size of rhinestone that I'm using today. And you know, typically I use, it's about a 3.8 to 4 millimeter rhinestone. And these are about a 4 to 4.2 millimeter rhinestone. So these are going to behave almost exactly the same as the ones that I carry. They're just a hair bigger. And I actually wanted that because in the glass rhinestones, sizes can vary, things can be a little off here and there slightly. And I wasn't able to use my silver jump rings anymore with my 3.8 millimeter rhinestones because the silver jump rings are running a little fat right now. So I compensated for that with just a slightly larger glass rhinestone Montee, and this is the tanzanite, and the tanzanite ones that I have in the 3.8 are running really small. So this is a great color to be able to get and work with. Okay, so in order to mount a jump ring onto a rhinestone, notice that I'm holding the rhinestone on the side, and you can see this is the bottom of it, and I'm holding it sideways. And I actually want to come in with my jump ring. See how I turn this? So see how I'm going to be coming into this on the perpendicular. You don't want to be coming in it from the side, because see how that jump ring isn't really going directly into the hole, whereas if you turn it up this way, see how that's just finding the hole. Just so easy to get it in there if you're coming at it from the right direction. Then what I do is I just tilt the rhinestone. You notice I just tilted it a little bit, and it's found its way across the corner. Okay, so we're not going straight across, we're going around this corner and through with our rhinestone. Now, we are going to do this a second time. I know that seems hard right now, but you'll get used to this. And as I said, these are slightly larger rhinestone than I normally work with. So, okay, so once again, we don't want to be coming into this sideways, okay? We want to turn this up so that we're coming into the hole at a perpendicular angle. We're kind of coming in from the bottom. Now, this time, I hadn't really planned for this because I wanted to show you the right way, but believe it or not, this time I'm gonna, see how I'm tilting the rhinestone towards me? And that's because both of these rhinestones need to face the same direction. So I show you that with the perpendicular so that conceptually you can understand it, but you're gonna have to find which way is most comfortable for you to mount these, you know, whether they're facing forward or what have you. But just make sure that as you try and find the hole of the rhinestone, that you are making sure you're going into the hole at a perpendicular. If you cannot see the hole, then that is a real problem. And I run into this problem. I've literally taught hundreds of people to do this, okay? And if you can't see the hole, you're not going to be able to do this. You're gonna make yourself miserable. So go out there, find a better light, find better magnifiers. There's actually prescription magnifiers that you can buy that will go onto your glasses. and will be set to your prescription. So get what you need to get in order to see this. This is very small work, and it's shiny on shiny. So it's very hard to see. It's not just that it's small, it's also that everything's sparkling at you. Okay, so I just want to show you, I closed that, okay, with both of these rhinestones on. And now that I've done this first connection, I'm going to pick up this little grouping. Okay, I'm going to, again, going in at the perpendicular into one of my holes of my rhinestone, letting it come out the other corner. I'll pick up a new rhinestone. Okay, put it on. If you can't see this, I think you'll find this very easy to do once you get the hang of it. It takes a little bit of practice, but it should be fairly simple to do. Usually eyesight is the biggest barrier to being able to do this project, okay? So now you see I've got 3 in a row. I'm making a strip of rhinestones. In my tutorials, you'll see that that's how I refer to this, is a strip, okay? And I'm gonna go through the hole again, come back out, and I'm gonna add one more rhinestone to my strip. And I'm going to close. Okay. So that's 4 in a row. And then I'm going to show you something really neat. So now that we have 4, I'm going to go through the one on the end. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is bring this up. And you can kind of see that I'm bringing this up. I'm not coming in from the side. I'm bringing the starting end up. I'm passing through that rhinestone, letting it come around the corner of the rhinestone, and you can see I now have a square. Okay, so that's how you make a little square. This square in other designs can be, you can allow it to face outwards if you're creating a tube. But this time we're going to want to use this square flat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another jump ring, and I'm just going to pass it through the rhinestone once, and I'm going to close this jump ring. Okay, so that's just one. And I'm going to put one through the other side. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this square so it's facing me and looks like a diamond. I'm going to set this single rhinestone above it. Now I just want you to notice here, because I've literally taught hundreds of people to do this, and I see a mistake happen more often than I can count. So see how the jump rings are going this way. They are not on the horizontal, okay? So make sure that this rhinestone here, that this set with its jump rings is on the vertical, okay? Now, here's another little trick. I'm going to start linking these pieces together. So first I'm going to pick up my square. And when I pick up my square, I want you to notice that the rhinestones are facing this direction, to my right. Then I'm going to pick up the single piece, and that rhinestone is facing to the left, okay? I'm going to close my jump ring. Okay, and then you'll notice the reason I did that was when I pull this back out and look at it, you can see that all the rhinestones are facing the same direction. So you want the rhinestone components that you make to be back to back. Okay, so balancing this on my middle finger, I'm going to pass through the same hole that I did before in the square part, and then I'm going to pass back out the same hole I did before in the single rhinestone part Okay, so when I do this, and of course I just dropped it. When I do this, I just want to mention here that you do not want these two cross. So you don't want to accidentally pass through this ring that you just put there. You want two rings sitting parallel to one another. Okay, I'm going to close. And now, this time I think I'm going to go in the reverse, but still notice that I'm using my middle finger to hold the square piece. Okay, I'm holding this in place. I can put my thumb down to make sure it doesn't move. Now I'm going to be passing through the same hole of the single rhinestone unit, but I'm going to pass over to the next hole of the square. Okay, so the next jump ring in the square, not this first one we were working with, but the one that's next to it. Okay, so we'll pass through there. Just want you to notice that, you know, when I'm grabbing my jump rings, I'm at around 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, somewhere thereabouts. If you're still learning to open and close jump rings properly, I do have a video for that that's going to help you a lot. Okay, and then the same thing. We want to double this one too. So this is going to be 4 jump rings passing through this single one here. Okay, and then through the same hole that the last jump ring passed through in the square. So that's 2 jump rings on either side. And I'm going to show you what you just did now. Okay, so see how there's 2 here and there's 2 here. Okay, and a lot of times with the rhinestone work, you will see me doing 2s, and the reason is the 20 gauge 1/8 is really nice and comparable to this size of Montee bead. But when you use 20 gauge 1/8, which you need that very small 20 gauge to fit through the rhinestones, it's not quite thick enough to fill the holes when we start doing the chainmail portion. So this portion here, this and this was chainmail. The rest of what we did before is just mounting rhinestones. It's not really chainmail. You're just preparing your beads to be worked on. So, okay, so now we're going to start working on the bottom. Now the bottom is going to actually behave the same as the top. We're going to want 2 this way and 2 this way. But we don't have anything down here for it to attach to yet. So this is the easy part. We're going to just flip this over, okay? And just notice, even though I'm not connecting to anything, I'm still supporting my square with my left hand middle finger. Or if you're a lefty, it'll be your right hand middle finger. And I just see how I just stuck that jump ring on to this one, to this right side. I'm going to stick the jump ring on to the left side. I'm sorry, stick another jump ring on the right side. I said left side, but 2 on the right, 2 on the left. So here's my first one on the left. And here's my second one on the left. Okay, so now that I've done this, I have 4 jump rings down at the bottom of this earring. Okay, just so you can conceptualize this at this point too, this is the top of your earring. This is the bottom where we're going to be attaching our faceted bead that we did at the very beginning. Okay, so in this next step, we're going to do that. So if you want to know how to take these 4 jump rings that are each connected on the right and left hand side, basically all we're going to do is pick up our work. Okay, again, I'm you know, this left hand acts as a table, and I'm supporting with my middle finger the little square. Okay, so I'm going to grab these 2 and grab these two, okay? Now before I close this, let's go ahead and put our little faceted bead on. And that's why it's nice, once you understand what you're doing with this, it's real nice to do the wire wrapping at the beginning. I know, you know, when I do tutorials, I'm like building it from start to finish. So I approach it a little bit differently than I would when I'm actually making the work myself. Okay, now I just want you to notice that once again, just so this isn't, you can leave this as a single one down here. Okay, that's just fine. It's not really a problem. But I like to double it. Mainly I like to double it because this wire on the faceted bead is really tiny, and because we're using jump rings, you know, there is an opening in the jump ring. So by putting two on here, it pretty much makes it impossible for it to ever come off, as long as you are closing your jump rings properly. Okay, so make sure those jump rings are always getting closed well. I just actually took off my glasses so that I could see better. Okay, and then that is what our earring looks like. Okay, this is the finished version, and all we need to do still is put the earring wire on. Okay, so just finishing this up here, you can put the ear wire on a couple of ways. Honestly, I just like to do it the easiest way, which is just turning this a little bit to the side. I pick up my earring, pop it on here, and then try and close this as well as I can. Okay, see how I just turn the wire back? Okay, and there is a finished earring. So now we're just gonna make our second one. Okay, and see how pretty that purple tanzanite is. I haven't had these faceted beads available before to do these earrings in this color. This color is really, really beautiful. It is a purple, but it's kind of more of a grayish blue purple, so just so you're aware. And the amethyst color that I carry, the dark amethyst really looks black. So I don't actually sell that one a lot. I make it available if somebody really wants it. But the light amethyst is a real mauve-y kind of purple. It's almost, it's just as much pink as it is purple. So the tanzanite's probably the most true to the purples that I carry, and it's really, really lovely. And I hope you are going to do some more with the rhinestones and mounting the rhinestones onto jump rings. I have tons and tons of projects using rhinestones. We've now started carrying, I have Swarovskis in these in a 4mm size, and I also just recently picked up some Preciosa in just crystal color. So if you like crystal on crystal, that's great. Just a little note to keep in mind, this is a slightly larger size, so I was able to do all of this in silver without a problem, and my holes were big enough. However, if you're using all of the other ones that I carry on the website, and you're buying individual rhinestones, I would buy silver frost to put just through the rhinestones. So the part of that project that you saw me go through the rhinestones, 1, 2, 3, 4 jump rings that went through these rhinestones, and 2 jump rings up here that went through this rhinestone. So that's 6 per ear. So you'll need about 12 jump rings in silver frost just to go through your rhinestones, and then you can add the silver. The silver's running a little bit thicker right now, so that's why I said I used a slightly larger size of Montee with this. So I just want you to be aware of all the intricacies, because sizing matters. And you know, we have die lots with jump rings, and we also have the anodizing process can make the jump rings a little bit fatter or a little bit skinnier. I have found that Silver Frost always runs the skinniest, and that's why it's a great color to use. But if you're gonna pick a color in the jump rings, that's always something to worry about. And I've had some real problems over the past couple of years with the silver, specifically running a little bit thicker. I think the gold runs just a hair thicker too. So just keep that in mind. And I'll be glad to give you advice at any time you want it, if you just ask before you place an order, to help you make sure that you're going to have a successful project. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you will join me for another of my projects. I have free tutorials on my YouTube channel, so please feel free to like those, as well as follow me on there. And there are also classes on my website that you will receive a video link only when you purchase the class. So hope you'll join me for lots more projects. I'll see you next time.